Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. What's new this week, David?
Hey, Jessie. All's good. Luckily, I have a backup internet because my internet's been down for 2 days.
Oh, no.
So I'm running off a hotspot right now.
Holy cow. Well, good thing hotspots are powerful these days. I've gone live with hotspots at, random locations. So
yeah, I have one of those Verizon hotspot boxes, which it's like, I don't know,
nice.
$50 a month, and it does the trick for a backup. Apparently a tree trimming truck took down the fiber. So
Of course. Okay. Well,
we're all
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, knowing some of, I don't know, just the background of Sanibel, where you're coming from, the idea of cutting down trees just seems, disappointing as it is. And then they cut into the fiber. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, we have a really great conversation planned for today. Hopefully it'll raise the vibes of that poetry. And then also, we can keep your internet strong today so we don't lose you here. But we will be bringing on Keith Gorney today. He's the head of global supply chain services for Pivotree for a conversation on retail. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jessie.
Keith, we're really glad you joined us today, and we're looking forward to this conversation. But first things first, for our viewers and listeners that do not know about you, we'd love for you to kick off the conversation and give them a little bit of background about you, your history, what led you to become head of global supply chain services at Pivotree.
Yeah, sure. So, I think I always love this space, but at the advent of e-commerce, when customers were starting to get products sent to their house, I was part of Best Buy, and actually didn't even start Best Buy in that space. I started in their financials and was asked to kind of on a dare to come over into the supply chain space and help lead a transformation. This is back 26 years ago. So I spent half my career at Best Buy doing all things in the supply chain space, really in service of customers. And then have taken that learning out to the industry and in the end-to-end digital supply chain, as well as the consumer supply chain and physical supply chain. So really have spent my entire career in this space and understanding the end-to-end journey for customers and helping retailers and manufacturers and distributors really unleash the power of technology, along with best practices and keeping customer first in mind as they build out these solutions.
Yeah, I love that. So somebody dared you to join the supply chain services.
Yes.
That's really funny.
Well, the dare turned out well.
What's that?
I said it turned out okay because he's in supply chain.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. It started out as a dare, and you've been there for 26 years now in the same space. So it worked out for you. I'd love to. Let's jump into the first topic here. Fast delivery models transforming supply chain operations. Love to hear what you have to say about this topic.
Yeah, I think when I go back to this and I think about it, right? Fast delivery actually, and even go back to catalog, when you used to have to be able to do next day delivery. So the concept of fast delivery has always been there. The notion of making it affordable and scalable has actually not. And so you see where the advent of capabilities like buy online, pick up in store, and retailers boasting, hey, we have same day delivery for you. You just have to get in your car and drive. So that was really, I think, the advent of what we would call fast delivery. But then you look at some of these failed experiments. If anybody remembers Walmart trying to pack deliveries in the back of their employees' cars that they could drive and deliver on the way home, they were trying to do it then, right? So customers were ordering from a store that day, and then they were asking their employees to drive it. And because they weren't insured through Walmart on their cars, Walmart became liable and they had to stop that. Even if you look at Amazon, Amazon in and of itself they didn't set out to actually do such, to scalable, like same day at the beginning. What they found was that, based off of the technology that they built and the way they built their model and their ability to distribute to major markets, they ended up having the ability to actually sell it as a service for Amazon Prime and being able to get it to a customer either same day or next day, and that just became the advent of what I will call fast delivery. And it's an amazing journey how that model has caused retailers to now or even customers themselves to become an expectation of retailers. And so, everybody is now in the space of how do I compete, not only, in service of the customer experience, but against my direct competitors who are investing in this space.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed so much in our lifetime. I mean, going back to what you said, like catalog, ordering, you used to wait weeks for something to be delivered, right? And so now we're used to having something delivered next day, 2 day, whatever. And if somebody, if you're, ordering something online and then they say it's going to take a week or 2 weeks to deliver, you're just like, what? I'm used to having it the next day. I mean, geez, right now you can order something on Amazon in a lot of places and you can have it within hours, and so we've seen such a drastic change. And I think that there's a challenge there for any new business, right, that wants to be in the retail or e-commerce space. It's like, how do you compete with that? That's that. I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges, is to try to be able to compete with that. Otherwise, you just have to use, Amazon or Walmart as your distribution, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. And we've talked about just data in this space, and not necessarily in the common sense of what historically has been like metadata, SKUs, and customer and location data, but it's really about the transactional data. So the first thing about just being able to do fast delivery is being able to trust that you have inventory. You can't promise somebody something that you don't have. So that's the first step, is just understanding and having accurate data around inventory. And then get into that space around just the order itself needs to be built in a manner that, okay, now it's not just inventory for a product, but inventory for a basket. So that entire basket needs to be available to do that fast delivery. So all of that data needs to be put together. And then, now we have the order processing of a location that can absolutely pick and pull and push that into a carrier's hands to get it to a customer within the time frame that you're promising. So it's a very hard model for people. If you can't begin with data trust, you can't operationalize it. I mean, I'm sure all of us on this podcast have seen at some point or other, you have a disappointment where you were promised something and the retailer didn't deliver. And there's huge stats out there that say that you will lose over 50% of your customers on one failed transaction. So when you start to go down this path and evaluate this, you have to get it right, which requires that resiliency of your technology and a trusted, repeatable process.
So what would you say is looking at it from the perspective of a retailer, what's their biggest challenge in making sure that they are able to provide a fast delivery model, and how do they overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we said, right, is like, I think from a technology perspective, the inventory volatility across the entire landscape of supply chain exists. So you don't know, if you can't measure real time or near real time what a warehouse has, what a store has, or precisely where exactly that product exists, That's kind of the first equation. And then secondarily, as you go down that challenge is, I would say, probably the labor model. And then how diverse you are with your location capabilities, warehouses and stores alike. I mean, and I've seen just this transformation where warehousing is actually becoming less and less a necessity, and store inventory is becoming more and more of a necessity. And think about fast delivery, even just the notion, and I work with customers all the time, our clients all the time, that don't have real-time inventory visibility to their store. And that's like, to me, that's first and foremost. If a customer is wanting to come to your location and you can't tell them whether you have it or not on their phone or on the computer, like, they're not going to come, or they're going to look for it somewhere else that actually can tell them it does have inventory availability. Couple that then just with the journey, right? And I've seen this a lot of times as well. As what I tell customers is, if you can't execute buy online, pick up in store, then your stores cannot be, or at least within the same day, you can't leverage stores as a model that would support any type of fast delivery fulfillment. It just doesn't work. So if you can't promise that a store has the labor, has the capability and the systems and the wherewithal to pick orders within a timely fashion to get it to meet these needs, these use cases, you can't execute it. So if you look at it, you can't just look at, oh, well, now I have accurate inventory, I can do this. It goes well beyond that. The last mile of this is truly around the carrier itself. And so, you're seeing a lot of people using, DoorDash and other third-party service providers that, can execute that final mile. And then you're going to get into a whole bunch of financial degradation of margins and such, and we can unpack that later. But it's not an easy model, but it is a model that can be set up and supported if you have the right technology in place.
Yeah, I mean, I live like literally between 45 minutes and an hour from the nearest like retail chain store of any type. And so I find that a lot of them, so I've used Best Buy order and delivery. I've used Home Depot order and delivery. I've used Total Wine order and delivery. It's pretty slick. Same type, exactly what you're talking about. The inventory's there. They know the inventory's there. I think Total Wine uses DoorDash. And so I can go through the inventory. I can choose what I want. And I could choose a time slot and they come and deliver it a couple hours later. So I've seen, all of that put to practice in I think that, all three of those, at least that I've used, do a really good job of it.
Yeah. And what they're using, right, is they're able to geolocate you, right? So they know where you're at. They know the store that has the inventory. So they're able to review that and trust it. They're able to execute the labor to pull that product. And then obviously if they're using DoorDash, they have to communicate that this order is ready for pickup so that dasher can come and grab it and then bring it to your location. And I mean, think about the other things that you talk about just as far as order execution and just even the notion of alcohol delivery. And so now you're not just talking about just normal product that could be delivered. You're actually having to validate and do a physical handoff of that product to you when they're delivering to you. They're not going to deliver it to your 10-year-old son, hopefully. Yeah. They're going to make you, they actually ask you to pull your ID out of your pocket and validate that.
And my ID and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, then think about, the notion that Amazon does grocery and alcohol and, so there's additional attributes at a product level that require different executions. So coming back to that, the whole, data supply chain, when you have a prolific or diverse catalog of products that you're offering to your customers, you have to be able to execute each and every type of scenario uniquely. And it might drive you to make different decisions. You may say, I can't do next day delivery because the product itself requires some type of special service to be added to it before I can actually execute it. Think of the time of day. If you order for next day delivery at 9 o'clock at night when there's one person in the store, you may not be able to get it the next day. So there's a number of data factors that go into each of these equations that drive the promise. And then that's ultimately, when I talked about getting into supply chain, it was all about, creating a promise, but most of all, keeping that promise.
Yeah, and that gets back into expectations, which is our next topic, really, next day delivery and shaping retail expectations. Talk to us about this. This is important because if you don't live up to the expectations that you set, then it becomes problematic with the customer, right? And so you're upsetting the customer. What data do we need to use to enable those capabilities?
The one thing, and it's probably something that I think that's glossed over quite a bit. And it doesn't get exposed to customers because they don't care, and ultimately they shouldn't, right? It's like, if I'm going to take money out of my pocket and give it to you, then get it to me, right? Like, I don't care if you use a FedEx or Purelator or any carrier. If you make a promise, you got to execute. So when I think about data, I think about just the offering itself. And so if I'm to offer a fast delivery or next day delivery proposition, I need to know that the products that I'm able to gather, that I can package, right, and I can actually meet that promise. And one of the things that, again, it's kind of a lost concept in this whole model is, wherever that location is, you typically have that final mile validation that says, oh yeah, I can absolutely make this. And then you also have other things that can take shape. So if you've made a promise, there's now systems that say, hey, you delayed this for whatever reason. There was a fraud hold on it. There was some other additional validation. There was something that delayed the product. Now I need to expedite. Now I need to expedite the picking, the packing, and maybe even actually requesting an additional pickup of products to be able to meet this. You don't get to operate at that level if the technology is not in place and all of that data is set up to work in concert with one another. How do you know you can't meet a delivery promise without some system being able to pull data and say, this is the zip code it's going to, and here's the normal carrier route? I can't make that. So now I got to upgrade the shipping, and I probably have to, as a retailer, I work with a lot of retailers on this, is all the penalties that they get based off of delays for shipping is I'm going to have to eat that cost and also margin degradation. So I think at every point of this entire journey around fast delivery, it starts and ends with data. And then I think the secondary to data, and one of the things that we kind of preach at Pivotree, is once your data is trusted, standardized, and optimized, then it's all about the technology. Then it's about technology execution along with business process execution. So, first and foremost, trust your data. Secondly, then you can set up your applications to be able to operate at a repeatable and observable clip, and you can report on it. I think that's another key data element is showing your success or failures, and then being able to utilize those success or failure metrics to optimize and go back and fix what may be broken.
Yeah, it always comes back to the importance of having data that you can rely on.
Yeah. Yep.
Quality data that you trust. I like that you said that data that you trust.
Yeah. And I think that's, one of the areas within Pivotree where we start with is, again, we'll do data assessments for customers to say, give me your catalog. And what we found is, while they may have all of their attributions set up, their attribution may actually be hindering their ability to tell the correct story to a customer. I mean, just think about units of measure, and then think of one of the examples we use is you can spell ounce. You can spell out ounce. You can use OZ. You can use you can spell each as ECH, EACH, right? All just that standardization, and then think of looking at that across the board, and then think of findability of product on your site, right? Customers coming to your site and saying, hey, I need this. So tell me what you have. So the ability to even find it is based off of having a trusted level of data, and then providing that picture to a customer to say, yes, you can trust the actual data that you're seeing. A prime example is something that I've discussed with customers is, and I apologize if you hear my dog in the background.
It's okay. We have a dog-friendly podcast, I will say.
One of the things that I found we did at Best Buy is we actually had to end up taking product out of boxes and measuring it because the measurements were off from the manufacturer. This is a customer escalation to our CEO where he had to buy 3 different microwaves, and it was on the counter microwave, and the first one had it measured the height of it, but it didn't measure like one of the top it didn't measure the rubber stoppers on the bottom. It just measured the product, right? So it was like an inch taller than what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So he brought it back, bought the next one. When he put it into the wall, it stuck out an inch farther than it was because it didn't measure the actual cord bending in the back and have that measure. And so he had to go back and buy a third one. So you can just see where if you don't actually trust the data, you can create a horrible experience for your customer having to migrate through a number of iterations just to find and meet their needs on a specific use case. So yeah, that's really the bigger part of the journey. And as I said, once you have trustable data, the rest becomes just simple blocking and tackling. And now we're starting on this advent, and we're already starting. We're in the advent of AI, and I think about the agentic nature of searching and how some of the statistics are showcasing that when AI learns that it doesn't trust you, it forgets you. So if your data is not correct, and you have and people are using those same search terms, or even a single person with their own chat, their own AI is asking questions, it's never going to come back to you. So if you can't have that trusted data and ability to provide visibility and have AI translate that for a customer saying, yeah, I looked at these locations and here's where it's at. If it didn't find Best Buy, if it didn't find Walmart because its attribution wasn't set up correctly, it's going to forget it. It's going to say, I'm not going to look at Best Buy anymore. So, I think those are huge implications of the advent of AI in just that the shopping space. And then now you look at kind of the behind the scenes of what I call more operational AI internally to organizations, is those key pinch points of decisions where data was originally just looked at and trusted. AI is now able to evaluate those ahead of time and say, if these things happen, like if delays happen, then I can actually record what I'm supposed to do and be able to choose from those choices based on what happens. And I mean, let's face it, even other times you get customers who are paying for next day delivery, and you can get it to them at a cheaper rate by going ground, by using a ground carrier. Mm-hmm. And so, some of those cost savings just based off of data and being able to leverage an intelligent engine that can interrogate and understand it will, help not only meet your customer value proposition of meeting that promise, but then saving you money on the execution of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had that exact problem happen with my microwave when I bought it from a local appliance guy, and he had it listed as, I don't remember, whatever the 34-inch width or whatever the number was, and it turned out that it was actually 34 and an eighth. It was
Yeah.
just a tiny bit wider,
Yeah.
and but he had basically all the models he just had listed as 34 inches. But when it came out, and I had a space in there that was exactly 34. When it came out, it didn't fit. And we're going crazy. Why doesn't it fit? Why doesn't it fit? We measure it, it's 34 and an eighth. And it actually said on the box, 34 and an eighth. And so they had to bring it back. It cost them money. The installer had to then go back to the store, swap it with the other one, which actually was 34 inches, and bring out a different one, which is a different brand, a different model, whatever. It looked similar and had similar features and whatever, but it was exactly 34. But the one that they brought, they had categorized wrong in their system as being 34 inches, even though it said on the box 34 and an eighth.
Well, and then think about the notion of the value proposition of next day or fast delivery. And I mean, anybody, right? It's like, especially like me, I'll forget. It's like, oh, I got some event tonight, and I all my shirts are dry. I haven't done laundry in 2 weeks, right? I got to get a new shirt. If I'm like shopping at 3:00 that day and I want to either pick something up or have it delivered to my house in time for me to go home and change and go to this event in that new outfit, like what are the implications of, one, it not arriving? Okay. Two, if it arrives and it's not the correct size or fit or color or whatever, like all of those things compound into like that original promise, right? I'm shopping with you because you said you could do this and you're not delivering on it. All of those things have such categorical foundational impacts to a brand that are just that compound exponentially every single time that those occur. And for this day and age, when the competitive nature of margins and everything are so focused on and kind of razor thin, if you will, you can't get it wrong. You can't miss that proposition. You can't miss that promise. So it requires not only the execution, but then that also tender care and feeding to ensure that you're having it done every single time in a repeated fashion.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, we've been getting quite a few comments throughout the episode. So just going back really quick, I could read off some of the questions and I guess comments that we had. So we've got one here: with the rise in online shopping, do you think that one day the in-store experience will be non-existent?
I mean, I think, and that was true. It wasn't true. It was forecasted when the advent of e-commerce came out. It was like the stores will die, and I was at Best Buy, right, guys? And so sorry, Circuit City, that happened to you, but we remained. But I think the notion of the physical presence of a product, to be able to see, touch, feel, observe, talk to somebody who's actually more educated about that product will always be there. And I think the other thing you see is, I know Target has had, footprints decline quarter over quarter, and they're trying to adjust to that. But I don't think we've seen necessarily this level of decline that indicates that online shopping is going to reduce. And I mean, let's face it, it could have absolutely during COVID, because you couldn't go to a store. But then think about what retailers did in response to that. We saw a ton of investment in curbside and same day delivery, or even next day delivery in the advent of COVID. But then after that, everybody, wanted to go back to the stores, and they wanted to see the product, and they wanted to, be out and about. Like how sequestered were we for those months, and having the ability to go back out and be able to do that. I will say though that the way that a store interacts with its customers absolutely has to mirror and work in concert with the online store. And the way I mean that is that, when you're leveraging stores for fulfillment and you look at your customers not as a channel customer, and I almost kind of get frustrated with retailers who don't incent their stores based off of fulfilling online orders, whether it be bonuses or just even credit for those sales, because that's there's the store labor and the stores are so. I'll tell you an anecdotal story. Best Buy was one of the first online presence to offer buy online pickup in store, and we were bad at it, like 10-15 minute wait times at counters. Didn't understand who the customer was when they walked in, what product they bought. And over iterations upon iterations, we attempted to get better. It was only when they started giving credit to the stores for those online sales that they experienced this huge growth in execution. And they started building in retail space for dedicated pickup. They had dedicated pickup spots in the car in the parking lot, and now you've seen everybody kind of manage that. Target's a prime example, and so is Walmart, of these pickup spots that you go to and you text and they come out and deliver your stuff. But it wasn't easy to start. Only after you actually built a brand experience that was across channels. I buy it online and I'm driving to a physical location to get it. That's a brand customer. It's not a channel customer. So I don't know, to me, I would love to see actually e-com P&Ls go away. They shouldn't be measured as a profit center. It should actually be based off of your local store brands, and on all those credits for all those customers, they're going to their local stores to buy that stuff too. So you can't treat customers, unless you're a pure play online e-com, you can't treat customers as channel customers. You have to treat them as brand customers. So
yeah, 100%. Okay, well, that's a very interesting take on that. And I think a lot of the other questions we're getting kind of lead to the next topic. So she's asking about AI impacting supply chain now and in the future. And this last one is supply chain innovation in modern retail. So could you talk to us a little bit about what the modern time looks like, and maybe even into the future a little bit, especially with AI?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. I touched on it a little bit. I think we're seeing, and you see reported, I think it was Dick's Sporting Goods reported that I think 80% of their online channel fulfillment was coming out of stores. I have a customer who's 90%, 95% of their online orders come out of stores. And so, there's that modification of now I need to have retail space to handle not only floor inventory, but backroom inventory to be able to execute on that. I need nimble supply chains to be able to replenish that. And I don't want, I don't want my warehouse sitting on inventory for months because that's, just because there's carrying costs and that's not in front of customers to be able to purchase. So I see there's some optimization with leveraging stores to do more fulfillments and do it actually quicker, and dedicating labor to being able to execute that. I see the advent of AI driving a ton of optimization in the supply chain space. I work with a number of AI companies that are really focused on replenishment and getting that right. We all know that tariffs have built a number of barriers to carrying costs and replenishment, and how much should I buy and when, and the risks of those types of investments. But I've seen a bunch of companies coming forward with AI replenishment and being able to forecast and demand and based off of historical factors. The area that I work more intimately in is more in the customer fulfillment side. So it's post-order fulfillment. So it's not the intake, it's the demand fulfillment side, is optimizing the locations that you can fulfill out of, right? So the cheapest and the fastest and the most at risk. Let's face it, we're talking, Jessie, you live in outside of Ohio, and we're outside of Sanibel, and so I'm here in Minnesota, and let's say they're not selling snow shovels down in Sanibel Island, right? And they're not selling. I mean, maybe right now because of spring break, they're selling bathing suits up here, but you guys are going to have bathing suits year round down there, and we're not going to have that up here come the fall. And so one of the things that these dynamic AI sourcing these rules get to is allowing you to get at risk inventory. And I have a retailer's got outlets and normal stores, and it's a lot cheaper for them to sell a product that's not discounted, right, than it is to sell it from a discounted rate, because that's already foregone revenue. So all these AI dynamic sourcing rules, and then I'm working on a number of ideations around just historical, what I would call global issues around omni-channel fulfillment. So think of stores like historically, it's, we don't have these proactive measures of informing a store. You've got a new order, you have a loyalty customer who just purchased an order, and we should fill that faster than anybody else. So effectively, and again, data-driven, interrogating orders to the nth degree to optimize how a store would act against that, a warehouse would act against that, and making different decisions based off of all the data you capture at the time of order create. AI is driving that ability to just, if nothing else, just diagnose the opportunity and showcase, hey, we could do this differently. Do you want to do it differently? And we're exploring ways of leveraging optimization of just that time to market for these capabilities, leveraging AI. They know how they can suggest the actual, way to build this. And now you're just working on testing and validating, getting that proposition right. So if I think about the supply chain and the advent of AI, it's all about that around those cost savings and optimizations. And we even talked about it earlier, just helping those locations make better decisions. One final thought on this. Think about the ability, again, I talked about a loyalty customer walking in. Think about the ability for your terminal, your handheld device, whatever you're using when you get that order or when the customer walks in the store, to be able to pull up that order and start having a conversation, or at least being prompted, right? I see you've been a loyalty member for 3 years. That's amazing. Okay. I see that you bought not only this, but you also bought the matching shoes that went with this. Is there something else that you were in the market for? Hey, AI prompted me to offer you this dress that goes really well with these shoes that it's seen online be purchased with that. Okay. That's not a agentic AI where the customer is driving and AI's a shopping assistant. It's a store assistant for upsell, cross-sell opportunities. So think about not just the agentic AI that I think a lot of people are focused on as far as making money for retailers, but I look at AI as optimizing the experience of that face-to-face with the customer when they walk in the store based on what they ordered.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about, the idea of being able to use sort of the same technologies, the same ideas and concepts that we use to improve the customer experience online, and being able to do that in an in-person mode as well. I love that idea. That's really interesting.
Absolutely.
100%. And before we get too far into discussion on this, we have 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure we get to tech stack to switch gears a little bit. Tech stack is something we ask everyone who comes on Deconstructing Data. So we're curious to know, Keith, what are some of your favorite tools that empower you and your team?
Yeah, so we look at best of breed in the digital commerce landscape. So if we're thinking of PIMS, it's the Stebo, Akineo, PIMS that we're mainly focused on. We work with a number of e-commerce platforms. Shopify obviously is like, becoming everybody's favorite. But we also work with VTEX, Oral Commerce. And so we have a number of folks that work in that space. When I say, are these my favorite, I think absolutely, just because I'm so familiar with them and I work with the people that I really enjoy working with, and I'm able to challenge them on some of these end-to-end journeys. And so, seeing a tech stack that can speak intelligently across the life cycle is where we like to index. And then for the supply chain side, from a OMS perspective, I grew up in the IBM Sterling space. I was Best Buy's, was one of the founding fathers of leveraging that. And I've grown up in that space ever since. But then, I really like these headless OMS concepts of like Kibo and Fluent, even Infios as a headless OMS. It's able to work really diversely and meet very niche use cases for customers. And it's not necessarily one size fits all. I will say, and for anybody who is interested, the market is so saturated and it's hard to understand, am I making the right decision? And that for us is like, that's just mind share. Like, call us, we'll talk to you. We'll even do comparisons for you and give you the right direction. That's, we'll just mind share that out with you. But making those right technology plays is super instrumental in making sure you get it right. Because if you have one, gear in the architecture, and I always say I love the gear. If you have one gear in the architecture that doesn't fit, everything else becomes extremely difficult to operate against.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, thank you, Keith. This has been a really great conversation. We appreciate you sharing with us today and with our listeners. And I think everybody learned a lot today, including myself.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Well, I will go ahead and close us out with the video, but thank you so much again, Keith, and hope everyone has a great week. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jessie. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
So audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. Build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement. So just imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your brand, ensuring that your marketing is hitting the mark every time. We want to bring you closer to those marketing goals, and we're eager to guide you. So just visit bdex.com. You can click on the Talk to an Expert button and get powered by BDEX. Deconstructing Data is the show that makes data make sense. Every Thursday, David Finkelstein and myself, Jessie Lezak, sit down with industry experts to unpack how data really drives marketing. We do this in plain language anyone can understand. If you want real insights, real conversations, and zero jargon, tune into Deconstructing Data, live on LinkedIn every Thursday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Yo.